Next up, we have community science for marine debris monitoring in Prince William Sound with Kathryn Youngblood from the University of Georgia. We're really thrilled to have Kathryn here with us. We've been a big part of what the Prince William Sound Stewardship Foundation does is marine debris cleanup and tracking. So with that, Kathryn, welcome.
Hello, hello. Following the whales is a tough spot, but let's talk about trash. So thank you all for having me here today. My name's Kathryn. I work for the University of Georgia in a research lab that focuses on ocean plastic pollution. So super excited to get to talk about some of the monitoring work for marine debris in Prince William Sound. Whoop. There we go. All right. So I got to come up here, I think this was summer of 2023, to do some field work with the Prince William Sound Stewardship Foundation. So very excited for any chance to get back to Alaska. This is really such an incredible and magical place. One thing it has in common with a lot of magical places around the world is that it is threatened by plastic pollution and marine debris. So to give you some idea of the global context, to date, since plastics really became a commonly used product in the 1950s, we've produced about 12 billion metric tons of plastic. Only about 9% of that has been recycled. So the vast majority, 80%, has either ended up in the environment or in landfills or dump sites. So not a material we're managing appropriately. And, the things that make plastic really useful in a consumer context, super lightweight, durable, can be used in a lot of different contexts, are the things that make it really dangerous when it ends up in the environment. Very pervasive. You all probably know this as you're out in the Sound seeing this material. But for our research group, we really believe that preventing plastic pollution at a global scale really starts with working with local communities. So on our team, we focus on data collection through community science methods. And we also work with lots of different stakeholders, bringing them together around this data and how we can use this to make science-based decisions to prevent plastic pollution. And this kind of started with our tool, Marine Debris Tracker. So this app has been around since 2011. There are several apps to track plastic pollution now, but we think we were the first one. Basically works like a high-tech data card and used to pin locations of where you see debris in the environment. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the case studies. We also are right now working on a youth-focused version of this, so that'll be out later this year. We're working on a kind of gamified version for kids. But overall, we've got more than 10 million items that have been logged in 90-plus countries around the world with the app, so really a global audience. As you know, plastic pollution is kind of a hot-button issue right now, so really something that people are interested in contributing data collection to. You can see some of those examples there, and again, that really widespread of countries that have, where you've got partner organizations that are logging with the app. So I wanted to point to a few different case studies of where people have used the app, just to give you kind of an idea of how this data can be useful. So firstly, on remote islands. So this is from British Indian Ocean territories. This paper came out where they used Marine Debris Tracker to record plastic pollution they were seeing on the islands, including bottles, and use those bottles to try to identify the sources of where that plastic pollution was coming from. So identified the brand names as well as the dates and tried to trace that back to if it was coming from fishing boats or if it was floating in from other countries and ending up on those really remote islands. Just as an FYI, I've included QR codes on all of these if you're interested in any of these papers and want to check them out. Similarly, on remote islands, we've also been partnering with X Expedition, which is an all-women sailing expedition. They've done several different trips. They've got one that they just launched that we're the science partners for, where they're using Debris Tracker to track data on several different remote islands. We did one project with them on their Around the World expedition a couple years ago, including this paper from the Caribbean, where we looked at how does the plastic that we're seeing on land connect to the microplastics we're seeing in the ocean environment. Obviously, microplastics also a significant concern from a health perspective, both for animals and for humans in the marine ecosystems. We're also using this in urban centers, so not in super remote environments, but this is an example of data collected in Santiago, Chile from one of our urban ocean projects. We've got about 12 cities now that we've worked with to collect bunches of data on what kind of plastics ending up in the environment, as well as what kind of plastics are in their stores, to develop opportunity assessments and help them prioritize where they should allocate funding to prevent plastic from getting into the environment. We've got in some of these, there we go. I was in Santa Fe, one of our 12 cities, a couple weeks ago in Argentina, where they used the data to justify getting funding for an ecocarga, so a refill center where they have this little container situation where they have lots of bulk laundry detergents, soaps, hand soaps, those kind of products that people can bring their own container and have them refill. And then they're using Debris Tracker to monitor how that impacts the litter in the environment after this installation of this project. So excited to see what that actually looks like. In urban environments, we've also got a lot of youth that are using the app. So this is an example of another partner organization, Global Tinker. They have this program called the Junior Scientist Maker Program, where they're encouraging kids to think like a scientist by going out and collecting data with the app and then thinking about what that data actually means. So we've seen use cases of students tracking plastic in their own community and then using that to come back and talk to their school about getting reusable foodware instead of having to eat off of styrofoam containers during their lunch period. So I love case studies like that as a really awesome way to tie data collection into local action. And then we've got data collection along major rivers as well. So one of our first big river projects was with National Geographic. So we did an expedition where we traveled from the Bay of Bengal up to the Himalayas, tracking plastic pollution in communities along the river with local university partners there. Recorded, I think, nearly 90,000 litter items in communities along the river there. And National Geographic also developed some educational materials about why collecting geospatial data can be important for preventing plastic pollution. Another example of this, the Mississippi River Plastic Pollution Initiative. So this project we did in partnership with the UN Environment Program and the Mississippi River Cities and Towns Initiative, which is a group of mayors along the Mississippi River. So the mayors were interested in looking at how to prevent plastic along the river. They made a commitment to do that. And to start kind of launch that program, we did a community science program with Debris Tracker where they logged nearly 200,000 litter items along the river. We were able to identify both what the common items were as well as what the top brands were in that litter. And some of those communities have then been able to leverage that to develop recycling programs, to outreach to some of those brands, to fund some of those recycling programs, which we always love to see. Yeah, and so then that brings us to Prince William Sound. So I'm going to do a quick tutorial on how to actually use the app here. So if you saw outside, we've got a few different materials. One that's a quick guide on how to use Debris Tracker, and then one that's a little postcard with some brief info, but I'll walk you through how to use the app here. It's pretty self-explanatory. So essentially, once you download the app, you can create an account with your email address. And then again, basically works like a high-tech geospatial data card. So you're using the app to add items to the map and log what you found. One important piece of that is that you need to enable location services on your phone so that actually works, including precise location or high accuracy mode for GPS will increase the quality of the data that's coming out of this. So again, you've got the different items categorized by type here. You can also search for specific items in the app. Once you get through that page, you'll also see a little survey. We've noted which questions are for volunteers versus admin for Prince William Sound Stewardship Foundation, and then you can upload data. So let me show you, see if I can get this video to play, what that actually looks like. All right, so we've got a lot of different lists on the app. We offer a lot of different customizations to people depending on what they see in the environment. So Prince William Sound Stewardship Foundation has developed this list with some custom items that are specific to marine debris that's typically found in the sound. So when you open the app, you'll click search for an organization and then pull up that Prince William Sound Stewardship Foundation list. It restarted. Okay, so once you've got that list up, you can click the info item and see the top trackers. Hopefully we'll continue to add to who's on that list. But then once you actually open up the list, you can see all of the different items there. Again, you can either search for a specific item, scroll through, or use that collapse all feature to compress and expand the list there. You can change the number of items either with that plus or minus, or you can directly click on that number and type it in. So for example, if you're doing a cleanup and then you want to track at the end and you're counting everything, you can do that afterwards. You can also add descriptions to the items. So brand names, color, if you see, if you can tell where the item is from, all of those kinds of things you can note in the description, which again can be really useful for informing where plastic is coming from and what we can do to prevent it. So let me back up here 1 second. Oop. Okay. All right. Normally I pause this while I'm talking, and now it's just playing through, so apologies. So one other thing to note here is that if you long press the add button, it will pin the item to the top of the list. So I find that really useful when I'm out in the field. For example, if you see the same things a lot of times. You'll see buoys and floats. You'll see bottles more frequently than everything else. So you can pin those to the top of the app so that they're easy to find and log as you're tracking. Oop. Sorry. And the one other thing I was going to show you is, it might not play, but, sorry. At the end, so there is an option for tracking offline. So if you are in a more remote part of the sound and you don't have internet access or data while you're actually collecting this data, as long as you've opened the list and there's a locally saved version on your device, you can track offline. And then when you get to the end of your session here, after you fill out your survey, you will click upload later, and you'll see that in the little cloud icon at the top of the app. So you can basically save the session locally to your device and re-upload it later when you have cell service or are connected to Wi-Fi. So a nice way to be able to use that out in the field in a more remote setting as well. All right. So another option for that too is we do have a manual upload on our website. So if you would prefer to use a paper data card, prefer to just write down what you find and upload it later, you can go on our website and you'll basically pin on the map where your cleanup was and log all your items here, and you're still contributing to that global open access database. So again, I mentioned a few of the resources. We've got some copies here, including this quick guide, which goes through basically the steps that I just showed you of how to actually track. And then we've also, this is the one important QR code. This is also we've got a characterization guide that we developed, has all the different items that are on the list. So if you're interested in, or if you have questions about what a specific item is called, this would be the resource to look at to figure out what specific items are and how to log them. And then all of the data that's logged with Debris Tracker, including the data from Prince William Sound, is open access, so it's all publicly available on our website. So I'll show you what that looks like as well. So let's see if I can get that to play. All right, so you pick a list. We'll go pick the Prince William Sound Stewardship Foundation. You can change the date filters here. I just selected all for this and give it a moment to load, and you can zoom in and see where those cleanups have taken place and where the data was logged. You'll also see some summary graphics there with top items and top material types. Again, as more people use this, this list will have more data in it. So right now, we've got our top items there, bottles and cans, as well as small foam fragment or hard plastic fragments. Foam are at the top of the list. Mainly plastic and fishing gear showing up in those top items there. You can also draw a box around this. I didn't screen record this, but you can basically add a geospatial filter. So draw a box around a certain cleanup if you're interested in data from only one specific cleanup that you did and want those same summary statistics. And then again, all that data is downloadable. So you'll see over there on the left-hand side, you can download all the selected data. You'll get an Excel file with all that info to use however is useful to you. All right, so I wanted to point out just a couple case studies of how this data can actually be used. So this is one case study from the University of Georgia's hometown, which is Athens, Georgia. So we have been, with our local Keep America Beautiful affiliate, have been logging data in the city as well as on river cleanups there for many years. And they've recently used that data to put together a draft for a plastic bag ban in the local city. It's not passed yet, but it did get put into, it's put up for discussion with the council right now, which is exciting. So again, the plastic pollution, a big global issue, but being able to have locally specific data where you can say, this isn't just a problem, out there conceptually, it's a problem here in our own community, can really make a difference for encouraging new policies, new consumer buying choices, can really inspire people to make different choices around material consumption. And then also on a global scale. So some of you may have heard that there is a negotiation happening right now for the first global treaty on plastic pollution. It's a little bit later than we anticipated. It was supposed to be done last year. The negotiations stalled out, but they've got, they're working on it still. So we're excited to see where this goes. But I wanted to mention this specifically because one of the big talking points that's been coming up repeatedly in the treaty is about funding for communities and small islands that are getting material washed in from other places, from producers of those plastics, to fund cleanups in those places. And I think that's especially important in places like Prince William Sound, where you guys are seeing so much deposition of debris from from outside coming in here, as well as local origin debris. But I think keeping tabs on that and on that kind of data collection informing more global action even. And even like Tim was talking about earlier, are at a national level funding for marine debris cleanups in Alaska. Having data on what is coming in here really makes a difference for that. And lastly, I just wanted to mention that these kind of photos from places like Prince William Sound of plastic pollution have really been kind of the source of inspiration for this issue all around the world. So whenever I go to conferences on plastic pollution, it's photos of big fishing nets in places like Alaska that people are talking about. It has really inspired a lot of action. And we have made progress on this. I was at a plastics policy summit in DC last week where they were talking about extended producer responsibility. So again, this idea of having people that make plastic, that make packaging, funding the management of that. And we now have 7 states that have passed those kind of policies in the last 2 years. So I really feel that this kind of marine debris work and showing the environmental impact of this problem makes a huge difference from a policy and advocacy perspective. So thank you very much. I think I've got a couple minutes for questions if anyone has one.
I may have missed this, but if you're out in the sound, can you add the location after you come in, because you won't be able to upload it in many places?
Yeah, so basically the way it works for uploading offline is you would download the app beforehand and make sure you've opened the specific list, the Prince William Sound Stewardship Foundation list, and then it'll save a locally cached version on your phone, so that when you're out, as long as your phone's, even if your phone doesn't have data, your GPS should still work. It'll work even if you have it on airplane mode. So you can still open the list. It'll tag the location based on that GPS coordinates. And then again, you'll save that data on your device. And then when you get back into Wi-Fi, you can upload it after the fact. So yeah, kind of but then again, the other alternative would be if you just want to write down your data on a paper data card and write down the coordinates, you can then upload it on the website after the fact. So either option works and contributes to that global database.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
One, if I was a young student, I see a couple of young students in here needing a research project. Have you had people doing research projects either high school or college? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of my favorite things about this is that I showed you a lot of case studies and examples of projects that we've been involved with, but because this is an open access, open data tool, there are tons of projects I don't even know about. So we've had students who use data or log data just in their own community. So not even out in the environment necessarily, but just in a neighborhood, and use that to inform various research projects. So we've had a lot of master's students use this kind of data for a ton of projects. Yeah.
And you might have mentioned this, and we can find the app where? Where's
Yeah.
a good place to find it?
So if you, it's available on both Android and iPhone. If you look for that little debris tracker, and you'll see, sorry, let me go back to one of the slides that has the little logo on it. Yeah, so that link will take you to the website, and it has links where you can directly download the app. The postcard that we've got out there also has a direct link to the iPhone, to the App Store and the Android Google Play Store for the app. So Marine Debris Tracker is the name, and it has a little turtle logo to find it.
Hey, Kathryn. This might not be easy to answer, but do you have any good ways that people can track the UN Plastics Treaty?
Ooh, that's a good question. There are a couple resources where people are putting together policy briefs, basically just reporting from the field. I can definitely share a link with you, and I don't know if there's a follow-up email from this summit, but there's a newsletter of journalists that are that basically go to the negotiation events and put out little daily emails. But I think it'll be the next planned negotiation is next year, as far as I'm aware. So we're in a little bit of a lull period around that at the moment. Yeah, I know WWF is very involved in the negotiations, and they have, I believe, some resources online. I don't know if there's any way for regular people to get involved, but they do have some resources online to keep tabs on what's happening. So they might be a good resource to follow up with. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's ACAT. Have you heard of them?
I have not, no.
There's a representative there that actually goes to the Geneva Convention.
Oh, cool.
That on our behalf. And I just wondered if you had any connections with them. They're doing a lot of work up in the Arctic right now.
I have not heard of them, but would love to be connected
Yeah,
if any of
yeah.
our data can be useful in any way.
Yeah. I think they might have some additional information that'd be really helpful for
Sure,
you on the
yeah.
Arctic. I just thought I'd bring that up. Thanks.
Yeah, that's an Alaska Community Action Toxic. Yeah. All right, well, thank you, Kathryn. We'll move on to our next session, and
All right.
Kathryn will be around
Thank
for
you.
questions during the break also.